welcome everybody. Go ahead and welcome hi, Stephen from White Bear, Stillwater area. So as Hopin is kind of set up here, I'm going to be doing a couple of dual monitors. So for the most part, you're going to see a lot of the side of my head, unfortunately, from what I can tell. So I'm going to start sharing screen 2, which this will be fun, little infinite world. I'll move this over here and we'll go ahead and get rolling. So today we're going to be talking about the basics of selling on Amazon.com. So if you have products and you aren't yet selling on Amazon, it's something you want to consider for sure. And if you're already on Amazon, you're probably experiencing lots of good and bad things potentially. Sometimes Amazon can be a bumpy place, but it's obviously a fantastic area for e-commerce, as it's the biggest D2C marketplace for sure in the US. Another White Bear Lake, awesome. So who am I? John Ginther is my name. I am the owner of Product Launcher. Product Launcher is an Amazon account management agency. What that means is I help my clients manage all of their back-end Amazon stuff. So we're going to cover all that today. Maybe not all of it, but certainly the basics of what it takes to sell on Amazon. There's my website if you want to check that out. Go right ahead. As far as my history, I guess I'd go into that a little bit. I've been selling on Amazon since 2016. And I have now both my own products that I sell, and we'll see those today, as well as my client accounts. Product Launcher was started a couple years ago, and where that agency fits in the ecosystem of the Amazon world is kind of in between two well-established areas. On the one hand, we have a lot of really large Amazon account management agencies out there, Retail Bloom, Orca Pacific, many others, that are really set up well to put a big team together and support a large national brand that may be doing millions of dollars a month on Amazon. So they're well served there. And then on the other spectrum, you have the DIY world, and there's tons of courses out there and gurus, some good, some bad, many fantastic, certainly, that are supporting the person who wants to learn how to sell on Amazon themselves. And they want to learn all of the tips and tricks and manage their account and do all of that themselves, or someone on their team. So that's the DIY world. But in between there, for the small business that doesn't want to have an in-house Amazon expert yet, maybe, or they just have no interest in that even long term, that's where Product Launcher sits. So that's who I am, and that's my background. So today, again, we're going to talk about selling on Amazon. I want our time to be as interactive as possible. So you'll see me doing a lot of this again, so I can be watching the chat. Be sure at any point to put questions in the chat, slow me down. If we want to go off or take you off mute and do that, I'll try to figure that out as well. So we can have some conversation if that's better than through the chat, but I'll be definitely keeping an eye on that throughout the presentation today. So shoot as many questions. The more interactive it is, the better, certainly for everybody, and makes it the most fun for me as well. Fantastic. Well, first of all, I'd love to know if anybody, if you could put in the chat if you are currently selling on Amazon. Love to just kind of get a gauge for who's selling there. And if you're not on Amazon, maybe are you selling products on other marketplaces like eBay or Walmart, or potentially your own Shopify site? Kurt from Minnetonka, hello. 2 days ago. Wow, awesome. Welcome to Amazon, Kurt. That's awesome. I hope the launch is going well. Shopify for Stephen, Pam, no Amazon, a little bit on those other marketplaces. Kurt, slow but moving forward. Good. Well, hopefully today you can apply some of the things that I'll talk about to help that launch of yours. The honeymoon period is the first 3 or so weeks of when an ASIN goes live, and I'll talk about what ASINs are and get into more of the definitions here in a second. But it's a really important period. It's kind of fun because the Amazon algorithm gives extra love or special juice, if you will, to those new ASINs to help get visibility, because that's one of the big challenges when you're brand new. You don't have any sales velocity or any history with the algorithm to rank where you want to rank for your organic search terms. So That's really cool, Kurt. Hope it's glad it's moving forward. All right. Let's move on to the structure of what we'll be covering today. Really 4 main parts. The first is your Amazon strategy and setting the stage. There's a lot of ways you can tackle this Amazon beast, and you want to think about that as you set your strategy, or your initial strategy at least. Next section is around keyword research. That's such an important topic, as well as listing optimization, which means how do you make your products look as great as possible on Amazon and have the algorithm recognize those products as best as it possibly can. So that's around listing optimization. The third section will be around competitive analysis, things to look for and look at in your competitors, what they're doing on Amazon so that you can respond accordingly. And then PPC, which stands for pay per click advertising. That's one of the 3 pillars of success, is doing good advertising on Amazon. And we'll cover that in a fair amount as well. And then managing your Amazon store. As I said earlier, I am currently selling on Amazon and have my own products as well, primarily for venues such as this, where I can actually show a live Seller Central account and show you the back end. That data is confidential, of course, with my clients, and most people don't want to show that, but that's the purpose of that. Me having those products is so I can teach and train, and that we'll be doing that a fair amount. And that fourth part is managing your Amazon store, just the different screens that you go through and what the back end of Seller Central looks like. So that's the name of the system as a third-party seller. That's the system you log into, and Kurt has been doing that quite a bit, I would imagine, these last few days and weeks, going into Seller Central to get everything set up and running. So that's how we'll structure the course today. Totally, yes. Well, let's dive right into strategy. Oh, I forgot to mention, these are each approximately 30 minutes or so of content, maybe 20 to 30 minutes of content. The first section's pretty long, but I'll have pauses for questions as well. And again, otherwise just interrupt me or throw things into the chat, but that'll be the approximate structure. And I forgot to mention this as well. I have about an hour and a half Zoom fatigue level, as we've all been Zooming and virtual meeting post-COVID. I found an hour and a half is my break point. So we're going 2 hours, so we're going to push me a little bit. But if I go down, I'm sure I'll recover and pop back up after a short, brief fainting. No, just kidding. All right, let's dive into your Amazon strategy. One of the big concepts that I want to start with right away is how you're going to be approaching Amazon. Are you going to be a 1P or a 3P seller? So 1P stands for first party seller. And what you're doing there is you are wholesaling your product to Amazon itself. And then Amazon is selling your product. So Amazon is the seller of record. That's a very different relationship than a 3P, being a third party seller. The third-party seller is you are the seller of record, and you have your own Seller Central account, and you control many things. So as a 1P, you don't get to set the pricing necessarily. Amazon will control that, and there's a lot of other differences. I recommend almost universally that everybody, certainly a private label, new brands getting started, that you go the 3P route. You just have more control over your brand on Amazon. Conversely, the benefit to 1P could be that you can go supposedly much bigger scale, so you can hopefully potentially sell more product. But there's a lot of pitfalls with that. There's 2 separate systems actually as well. I was talking about Seller Central. That's the system that the 3P sellers log into, and Vendor Central is a different system that the 1P sellers log into. So those are a couple important concepts to think about. Most everyone on this call, I assume, is going to be in the 3P realm. But even that, now we can break out the strategy a little bit further. Are you going to sell on your own account or hybrid, or are you going to allow resellers? Some of my clients, for example, have great relationships with, longstanding relationships with other Amazon resellers of their product. So on a particular product, the owner the manufacturer might be a seller as well as other sellers. And I'll talk about the listing, how you can tell if there's other people selling. You may have seen this where you more from There's a little link, and you can see that there's other sellers of a particular product. So that's an approach you could take. I think for me, my recommendation to my clients is, unless you have those really strong relationships, you're going to be best suited to control the Amazon experience yourself, not have other sellers on your products. You be the only seller, and it just gives you more control, which is, I think, what one of the big goals of being on Amazon is, controlling your brand image. That's that kind of third point I'm calling out there. Yeah, so that's the difference between how you're going to approach it. As far as your objectives, then, once you're on Amazon, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to maximize awareness for your brand? Get as many eyeballs on it? Obviously, Amazon is such a huge, I think it's over 300 million Prime subscriptions. It's like as many people as in the US. It's some ridiculous number. That's not even that high, but it's very high. So you get tons of awareness on this very popular, of course, marketplace. Or maybe revenue. You're trying to just really drive revenue and profit because of the opportunity on such a large marketplace. So, or maybe all of those things, but there will be trade-offs, and you may need to focus on one versus the other at certain times throughout the season. But controlling your brand image is a very important one. And sometimes the case may be, hey, you've got a great brick and mortar distribution channel already in place, and that's where you want to focus on for whatever reason. You still would want to get to Amazon, because there could be, for example, other people selling your products without your permission or even knowledge if you've not looked into what's going on Amazon. There could be in your existing distribution network backdoors, or people are able to get wholesale product, and then if you don't have good agreements in place, they could be selling those products on Amazon without your knowledge. When that happens, oftentimes the brand is not getting represented very well at all. It may be a poorly optimized listing. They may not have things like brand registry, which we'll talk about in a bit, as far as the ability to build a storefront and other cool things that will make your brand really stand out and be awesome on Amazon. Others might not have that ability if they're just selling your stuff, or they might not really care either. They just want to, push products. So that is a great part of your strategy, should be controlling your brand, controlling how you are presented on Amazon, regardless if you want to use it as a major sales channel, though it certainly could be that as well, depending on your market. You will not grow your customer list easily, that is. And this is maybe surprising to some people who've not learned about selling on Amazon, but Amazon really, 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 really prioritizes the customer over the seller. So the 3P seller, on a scale of 1 to 10, customers get a 10 for love from Amazon. Sellers, we feel like we get maybe a 2. And it's not always that bad, but definitely as far as the policies and rules and support and all of that, customers are king for sure on Amazon. And what I say by you won't be able to grow your customer list is when you are doing fulfilled by Amazon, and we'll talk about that in a second as well, you don't really have any access other than a first name to the customer and a city and a state and zip code. You don't get their phone number or any address information even. So, and you're not able to communicate with them other than through Amazon's messaging in a couple different ways. So you're not able to scrape an email or get anything like that, even though you're maybe selling tons of product on Amazon. Those customers are Amazon's customers. They're not yours. There's some exceptions to that. With fulfilled by merchant, you are actually shipping the product yourself to them, so you have to have their address, and there's some opportunities there. But for the most part, Amazon controls it. So don't think of that as a big part of your strategy of getting a big customer list. That's challenging. One of the ways to do it legally, if you will, or by Amazon's, not getting Amazon mad at you, is product inserts that drive traffic to a landing page in the appropriate way. So, hey, maybe you have a product that you want to give away, or you have an insert that says, visit our website for PDF on, 20 awesome recipes for this food product you're selling, or whatever it is. That is a place where you're not asking for a review or offering money for a review or doing anything that you shouldn't be doing, but that's totally fine. They visit the page, and you can, because it's a landing page designed specifically, you know it came from Amazon, you could capture their email at that point, and that's a good strategy to grow your customer list. But just consider that. So questions on any of that strategy piece? I'm not seeing anything in the chat, so I think we're pretty good there. Can always go back if somebody has questions. Now we'll get into setting the stage a bit about some of the definitions. I've already been starting to throw out terms and things like that. But even before we get into that, what are the pillars of success? Like, how do you succeed on Amazon? And really, I like to think, and most people do as well, that's all about organic rank. So Kurt was talking about he's just launched, right? So all of us who are just launching products have no organic rank. We're on page 7 of the search results, or maybe not even indexed yet. And in that case, nobody can find you. So you're live on Amazon, but you really aren't if you don't have organic rank. 55% of revenue for a given search term is going to come from the top 3 search positions, organic positions, 1, 2, and 3. And so that's the goal for everybody. We want to get and hold one of those top spots for our relevant search terms that people are typing into the search bar. So that's really the overriding success criteria is organic rank will equal revenue. The 3 pillars that support that are listed there. So a differentiated product. Number one thing you want to have is a differentiated product. You want something that stands out from the competition, needs to be high quality. It can be the lowest price if that's you have the ability to do that. That's a tougher game typically to play, and you're talking volumes and things like that. But that's critical to have a great product. The days of 10 years ago, plastic piece of crap out there that you could just manipulate the algorithm and make a ton of money and then just dump the product. Those days are pretty much gone. That's not the case anymore. You really need a great product because you want to get great reviews. And that's just a critical part of success. The second one is listing optimization. This is, we'll cover in a little more depth, but great main images, great lifestyle photos with people in them or hands. If it's it's a product like a kitchen implement or whatever, you want to have that human connection. Informative infographics that talk about the benefits of your product. Video, super important on the product detail page, on your storefront, and then on video and search ads. And we're going to look at some more of that. And then your title is a really important part of the serves 2 purposes. The algorithm looks at the different words in your title for indexing, and then also the human shopper needs to understand what your product is and some of the important things in the title, and then the bullet points as well, and description. So there's a lot into the optimization that you want to be firing on all cylinders for sure. Kurt says lots of questions. Perfect. Yeah, we'll take pauses and maybe we'll cover a lot of those. But yeah, so optimization, got to have it. If you have good competitors or competitors that know what they're doing and they have fully optimized listings, you'll definitely need to match their game because it really stands out when there's a high quality listing versus a sub-optimized one. We may even have some time to poke around and find some bad listings. I don't know if I actually had some screenshots up yet for that, but it's pretty crazy. In the cemetery candle niche, actually, that's how I found my product. Is one of the top sellers was literally just a cell phone, gray background, terrible main image, and no other photos. And it's like, boy, I can do better. So if you're lucky enough to be in a niche where your competitors are in that mode, you're really going to set yourself ahead with proper optimization. So that's number 2. Number 3 is Amazon PPC advertising. As I said, PPC is pay-per-click. That's the type of advertising that as a new product is critically important, but it's also important for the entire life cycle. And we'll talk more about that. But basically, pay-per-click is the advertising where we can set up campaigns that target certain keywords or other products, things like that on Amazon that shoppers are typing in, and run ads. And then we will show up as a sponsored ad. And you've probably seen that. We'll show some more of that in the search results examples. But the reason that's a critical pillar of success now, and maybe not quite so much as it in the past, it has been for several years, but prior, maybe not quite as much, is that everybody's doing it. And unfortunately, because of that mode, if you're not advertising and your competitors are, they're continuing to fill up those top important advertising spots, and you aren't, and they're going to beat you out. Because one of the keys to organic rank, kind of circling back to that, is like, how does the algorithm identify you that you should be in those top spots? And it's really, there's lots of factors, and it's a black box. We don't know exactly what that is to reverse engineer it, because that would be incredibly powerful. I think there's some people who are getting close or claim to be close to that, but Amazon keeps that pretty secure. And I think it fluctuates as well, but sales velocity, if it just simplify it, if you're selling a lot of product on a regular basis, day to day, and it's increasing, especially, the organic rank will just start increasing, and the algorithm will rank you higher and higher for search terms that you're targeting, as well as relevant search terms that the algorithm knows are related to your product or category or niche. So that's how you succeed on Amazon. Is you just want to have a great product, really awesome optimization, and run advertising effectively. So we'll talk about the pendulum swing of advertising. That's an important concept. Like the mode that Kurt is in right now with the launch the pendulum has swung hard towards awareness. And then over time, it will swing towards profitability as more sales will come from organic. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Stephen has a good question. Can PPC help or hurt organic rank? That's an awesome question. It can only help. So I'm not aware of any scenarios where PPC would hurt your organic rank. Potentially, it could be a neutral, I guess. If you're running a lot of ads and you're getting a lot of clicks, so people are clicking on it, but they're not converting, they're not making a sale. That's a negative. So the algorithm is definitely going to recognize that piece of it. So you're not going to be improving your organic rank in that mode. That scenario points to you have an issue probably here with your listing optimization, or your product is not differentiated. And that could come into reviews, could start to play into that factor as well. If you've got a bunch of 1-star reviews, PPC would hurt your pocketbook because you'd be potentially spending a lot on advertising, but not getting sales from it. So yeah, but it certainly helps on the positive side of things, as you get sales from PPC, some from organic. In a perfect world, you're able to drive traffic in externally from outside of Amazon as well, through your email lists and other marketing efforts outside of Amazon. But if you're firing all three of those cylinders, most people don't have a list, especially when they're just launching a brand. So it's really the first two, but that PPC will generate sales, which will add to the sales velocity and really help your organic rank. And it'll start to work. Many people call it the flywheel concept, meaning you're getting sales from PPC, which is increasing your organic rank. So you're starting to get some more sales from organic rank, which is increasing your organic rank. And then your PPC is more effective. And so that gets the flywheel going and gets sales velocity in the right direction. Hopefully that answered that question, Stephen. Let me know if it did not. Perfect. So here's a little bit more on setting the stage, hype versus reality. It is challenging to do well on Amazon, just to be blunt with it. It's a very competitive environment now, and pretty much every category, unless you're, again, lucky enough to be in a super narrow niche that's doesn't have a lot of competition. But a lot of people, in the old days, thought that they could just really, get out on Amazon and just absolutely crush it right away. But the reality is it takes work, and it takes some strategy and some thought and planning, certainly. But as we all know, post-COVID world, e-commerce is super important part of the world right now for people to get products, and Amazon is at the center of that. So that's, really important. So in 2020, obviously, I think everybody on this call knows how much e-commerce grew, but it was 48% year over year total, just e-commerce in general in 2020, which is insane. And then Amazon grew 38%. Now, 2021 has definitely pulled back, and most of my clients have seen sales well below what they were last year. but still, post-COVID, it's going to be a critical part. So, yeah. Any questions on that? Amazon is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Definitely. Used to be, but it's not anymore. That's kind of just a reality check. Now, I don't want to be doom and gloom about that. You do need to do things the right way on Amazon now, and it's a fantastic opportunity to get your brand in front of eyeballs and tons of eyeballs and get sales and all of that. But here's some definitions we're going to dive into. So I've talked a bit about 3P versus 1P. I don't think I need to cover off on that anymore at this point, unless there are questions about it. Let me just think if I've caught any. There's some nuances to that. I probably won't even get into that. Some complexities between the two systems. Another reason why I always recommend 3P, especially to start. I'll go through this one. Basically, I said there was two systems, one called Vendor Central and one called Seller Central. Vendor Central is for the 1P sellers. Seller Central is for the 3P sellers. There's a hierarchy. So at the back end, on the technical side, there's these two systems, right? Well, on your listing, your main images or your title or your bullet points, those are contributed, right? Either from you through the Seller Central system, from another seller who might be selling that same product on a Seller Central system, or if Vendor Central is ever in play, maybe there's contributions coming from there. What I mean by contribution is in the back end on Vendor Central, for example, a certain title was submitted. That title, so Vendor Central is kind of the king, and then below that is Seller Central. The problem, and why I don't recommend going the 1P route, is that there can be gremlins in the system or these long-standing contributions that prevent you actually from making changes, or at least prevent you from making them easily to your own listings. And those are major headaches, and you can just avoid all that by never even going down that route. And I forgot to mention this as well. It's super important. You have to be invited as well. So 1P, you don't just pick and call up Amazon unless you have a really fantastic product that can sell a ton of high volume. So that's probably, again, for most people on this call, not even really an option, because Amazon does need to initiate that reach out to you. But types of fulfillment, this is a really important piece. So FBA versus FBM. The difference here, so fulfillment, how are these orders going to be fulfilled that you're hopefully getting tons of orders on Amazon? One of them is FBA, so fulfilled by Amazon. That means you send in a certain amount of product to the Amazon distribution centers, and then as orders come in for your product, Amazon will box them up and ship them. That's hands down the preferred way to go. There's very few exceptions to that. Even really large and really heavy items, which can have a very high FBA fee because it's based on volumetric weight. Even that scenario, if you can get your pricing correct, you're going to be better off with FBA, because that's the free 2-day shipping for the shopper, and it gives that confidence. Many people don't even know that there's this whole third-party world. They think they're just buying everything from Amazon, but that the FBA gets you that fulfilled by Amazon and the Prime badge, and it's really preferred. Your conversion rate is always going to be greater when it's FBA versus FBM, fulfilled by merchant. We talked a little bit about in the customer comments I was making earlier that with fulfilled by merchant, that's where the order comes in and you have to put it in a box and ship it to the customer. You do get their address, and you can write a little note in there too as well and say, hey, Fred, thank you so much for your order. I really appreciate your business, personal note. That kind of stuff can go a long ways towards, positive reviews and positive feedback for your product, but at the cost of a much lower conversion rate, because many people don't want to deal with that or pay shipping, or they don't see the Prime badge. And even if you have free shipping kind of built into your pricing with FBM, it's still going to be a lower conversion rate. And we'll talk about conversion rate and some metrics as well, but hopefully most people on this call already know this, but I've said it several times. Conversion rate is orders divided by sessions. So sessions are when people visit your page. And that's an important measure of, all right, how many of people that visit my page, what percentage of them are actually placing an order? That's really important for a metric to track. You should be tracking that monthly at a minimum. And we'll talk about how to calculate that in Amazon in a bit. The buy box is a really important concept and definition that I want to talk about. And I'm actually going to go into our first off PowerPoint mode here. And can I just get a, oh yeah, I can tell that we're seeing the right screen. Perfect. So the buy box, it's really a kind of a concept as well as a physical area of the product detail page. So what we're looking at here is Amazon. This is my cemetery candle. I've talked about it several times. The buy box is really kind of considered this area over here. And it's really important if you have multiple people selling the given product that you're winning the buy box. And what that means is right now, Arete Marketplace Products, that's the LLC for my cemetery candle company, is winning the buy box because I show up, here I am, shopper XYZ, and I want to buy this. Arete Marketplace has the buy box because when I add to cart, that sale will come from my inventory versus potentially somebody else who's selling out there. And I don't have a quick example. Yes, I do. But down below here, or sometimes in this area here, you'll see others. Let me just get to one really quick. And all these Pop Daddy ones. So to new from. So it's this kind of a box that lets you know there's other sellers on the particular ASIN. So this is the concept of buy box. Again, if you're the only one, like for me, I've never had anyone else selling this product. I have very tight channels. I'm only selling on Amazon. So really, for somebody to buy this on Amazon and then become a reseller, they're going to not be able to compete because they would have to offer it at a higher price or offer it at my price and then, or at a loss. It just doesn't make sense. So that's why I really don't have to worry about that issue so much. But so that's the buy box. That's a little bit confusing, and I'm not sure I explained that really well. So please throw in a chat if you want more about that. The next important definition is the algorithm. I've mentioned this a couple times already, but that's the A9 algorithm is just the name for the algorithm that is on Amazon that's determining how everything is getting organically ranked. And it's really complex, as I said, and Amazon doesn't share all that complexity with us. It's a bit of a black box, but you want to make sure that your product is getting properly indexed and recognized by the algorithm so that, especially with a new product, if you think about it, when you first launch, the algorithm doesn't know what you are. It doesn't know, can't look at the photos and go, oh, clearly this is a cemetery candle. So you have to train it basically. And the way you do that is through how the words you've used in your copy, on your bullet points in your title, as well as your backend search terms and all of those things. And then as sales start happening for certain search terms that shoppers have typed in, the algorithm starts to tile that together so it knows what your product is. And that's pretty complex to get into more depth with that, like all the different factors. But again, sales velocity is the top factor. If you're selling high, the algorithm is going to rank you rank you. And yeah, and getting back to the indexing part of it and it recognizing you correctly, sometimes you may be, for example, you launch, you think you've got everything set up correctly. You think you have the product identified in the right category and all of that. And you start trying to run advertising and you're not getting any ads being run for search terms. And you're like, well, these are perfectly relevant search terms for me or for the product. Why are the ads not showing? That's an indicator that the algorithm hasn't quite figured out what you are. And it doesn't think you are a, whatever the search term is you put in there. Because that's the thing. I can't take my cemetery candle as an example and advertise on a search term like red wagon and just advertise because I want to advertise there. It's a complimentary product or whatever. The algorithm won't do that because it has to be relevant. So it says, no, you're a cemetery candle. You don't get to advertise on the search term red wagon. So Stephen has a question though. Who provides the images and descriptions of a product with several sellers? Fantastic question. We're going to talk a bit about brand registry and what that means. But there's a hierarchy amongst the third-party sellers. So let's just take the 1P Vendor Central thing out of the equation. If multiple sellers are on the listing, they may have equal contribution rights. So multiple people might be able to change the main image or change the bullet points. if no brand registry is in place. And that is actually something of a black hat tactic. So black hat and white hat, I think you probably know, most people know what that means, but white hat tactics are what product launcher and reputable agencies and, gurus and all of that out there advocate for, which is basically following the rules, following all of Amazon's rules. Black hat is trying to bend and go around those rules and do things that are against Amazon's terms of service. Review manipulation is a big one, right? That's probably the number one black hat tactic that continues to be attempted in multiple different ways. And Amazon's getting better at tracking that. Just a quick sidebar, there was a huge story, still kind of ongoing, I guess, but I think it was almost $1 billion plus in sales was basically taken off Amazon because of around however many of these really big Chinese sellers were connected to this black hat review manipulation ring, I guess you'd call it. And so Amazon banned all those accounts, I think permanently. So they're getting definitely serious about it. So stay far away from any of that black hat tactics or review manipulation or any of that sort of thing. But where I was going with that as well is another black hat tactic is called listing hijacking, Stephen. So that's where someone comes on your listing, sets it up as if they're going to sell it, and then they change the main image to like a really bad image or super inappropriate or something like that. That can happen if brand registry is not in place. I think that might be on the next slide anyway, but brand registry is where if you have a trademark pending or an actual completed registered trademark for your brand, you can apply for brand registry, which gives you tons of protections, but it also puts you up a notch in the hierarchy of contributions. So Vendor Central still would be top, but then brand registry owners would be next. And then resellers would be down here, third. So in that case, you can, like for me, if somebody did somehow jump on my listing and try to change the main image, they shouldn't be able to, I'm brand registered and I have that. And I've not authorized anyone else to be a brand registered seller, because you can do that as well. That I would have a little bit of control over that. The problem is those rules are always a little bit fuzzy, and sometimes people are able to sweet talk the Seller Central support person to actually make the change, even though they're not supposed to. And so it's not always a perfect world, but that hopefully that covers off on your question there. Reviews, definitely super important concept. Reviews and ratings, I think everybody knows what that is. Everybody uses them to make purchasing decisions, but I wanted to show the greatest review, maybe not the greatest, pretty close to the greatest review I've ever seen. This was shared with me last Friday at the Twin City Startup Week opening party. I was just talking to somebody and she said that just bought this. It's an ant poison, but I'm just going to read this review because it is so hilarious. So many lives claimed. 5-star review. I was sick of ants coming into my house and finding my crumbs. I deployed the Taro liquid ant baits on a Saturday night. By Sunday, a steady trail of ants were coming and going from the ant trap. Clearly, word got out and the ants were excited to get everything back to their homes. I watched as they worked tirelessly to deliver sweet poison to their family back home. I watched and realized how many ants would die. Every time I glanced at the ants marching to and fro from the trap, I thought of how doomed their food scavenging mission was. I thought of their masses dying, slow deaths. They're old and they're young alike. Yes, I was the evil supervillain that was destined to eradicate their entire colony. By Tuesday, there was no more ants. Their blood is on my hands. With great power comes great responsibility. I'm worse than Thanos. The snap of the top of a Taro ant bait unit, I eradicated countless ant lives. Immensely effective, 5 out of 5. Obsessed with my newly found villain role, and now have a sick hope of attracting a scavenging straggler from another colony. So this is just ridiculously good. I'm curious, throw in the chat. Do you think this is, speaking of black hat and white hat, is this just legit somebody having super fun, really like the product? I mean, it reads that way. I don't think this is fake at all, but I'm curious if you think fake or real, throw it in the chat. But the point is, something like this at the top, this is there's top reviews. So when people want to look at the reviews, this is the first one they're going to read. This is like invaluable almost, because so many people will see this. They'll get just like I was laughing there. and 5 stars. And it's like, wow, the product looks great. You look at a couple more, 5, 5. Oh, we got 1. Okay. But for the most part, these are really going to carry a lot of weight. So, particular family friend. Yeah, that's, that could be too. That's kind of gray hat. That gets into the gray hat area there, maybe, but technically not. No, you're not supposed to have your friends leave reviews. Anyway, that one's super fun. I wanted to share that one. All right, let's keep going. We are at 45 minutes and we're still on part 1. So I'm going to move a little bit faster to get us into the next sections. Really quick, I think most people on this call are going to be focused on private label, but there's other ways to sell on Amazon. Private label, we all know, that's building your own brand. You're creating your own product. You have full control, more upfront costs, but and longer time to develop. But that's probably, again, what most of us here are interested in. Arbitrage, if you know what that is, that's where you, for example, go to Dick's and you buy 20 hockey sticks that were on clearance and that are brand new, and then you resell them on Amazon for a markup. Easy to start, very time consuming and lower margins, or they can be low margins. That's not something I've ever been interested in or really know anything about other than the definitions, because I'm not interested in it. Wholesale is kind of a blend. It's almost like private label, but here you're just working with a manufacturer to be their Amazon seller. That's actually a decent way to go. Some of the manufacturers just don't want to be an Amazon seller, or they're too concerned about channel conflict, which I should have mentioned a little bit more about that in strategy, but that's actually, in my opinion, why you should be a seller on Amazon, is to prevent channel conflict and control your pricing and set it above what your brick and mortar to support them, actually. But that's wholesale. And then drop shipping is where the order comes in, but someone else ships it or the manufacturer ships it. This one I just don't like either. This is allowed on Amazon, but not. They still, it's a little bit fuzzy. So those are just some other business models you may want to think about. Kurt asks, couldn't drop shipping, lead times, and quality control issues impact credibility? Absolutely. And that's what Amazon doesn't like about that model, is that there's that separation of responsibility from the seller to somebody else who's doing the drop shipping. So yeah, that's it. There can be tons of money made, and there's definitely people out there that teach you how to do that and arbitrage well, but not to me. I don't know how to do that well, nor am I interested in it. So what makes a good Amazon product? A little bit more, we talked about differentiation and what makes it, but price, I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Because of the fees that you do pay on Amazon, if you can get a price in the range of $25 to $50, that's going to definitely give you more options for doing advertising, running discounts. Hopefully, and at that range, you're at a decent profit margin. 30 to 40% is pretty average profit margins on Amazon because of the different fees that they take. If you can get above 50% profit margin on Amazon, that's a really great place to be. So unique benefits, low or poor competition. Again, that makes a great product as well. And search volume, you want to have some search volume, like with the Symmetry candle, for example. I wanted a decent amount of search volume, but not too much, because if there's a ton of search volume, that's going to lead, if not already, to eventually a lot of competition from others who recognize that there's all that search volume. And so there might be a sweet spot for you. Or you may be going all in and you have like a gangbuster product, and so you want higher volume. But those are the factors you want to think about. I'll just cover off on these 3 main fees. There's other fees that you can encounter on Amazon, but these are really the 3 big ones. The referral fee is 15% of your sale price. There's some category exceptions, but for the most part, just consider that kind of the standard, which means if you're, selling for $100, you'll pay Amazon $15 for that. So that's always 15%. And as your sales price changes at the time of the sale, then that referral fee is immediately adjusted as well. So that's 15%. The FBA fee, as I mentioned earlier, is the volumetric weight calculation. So dimensions and how heavy. So small and light is going to have a much lower FBA fee, all the way down to under $3 for some of my clients' products are in that range, actually. But big and light can have high fees, even though they're not heavy if they take up a lot of volume. So there's calculators out there to tell you exactly what your FBA fee is going to be. But typically, unless you're on the extremes of a really small and light or super big and heavy, and you just want to really ballpark it, maybe another 15% for your FBA fee. What you're getting from that is customer service and all the shipping, and they're paying for the box to put it in, the shipments to the customer for 2-day is all part of that. So you're not paying any extra shipping fees or anything like that. It's all in on that FBA fee. And then storage fee is your fee for having product at Amazon's warehouse that is being stored there but not moving. Really, if you're effectively managing your inventory levels and monitoring sales and keeping a good inventory turnover rate, the storage fee shouldn't be a significant part of your margin calculation. It should be very reasonable. But that one's very dependent. If you have a ton of inventory that's sitting there and not moving, eventually you'll get into long-term storage fees, which get quite expensive because Amazon then is just like, hey, send this stuff back to yourself or move it out. It's taking up too much space. So for too long. Kurt asked a good question, shipping fee to Amazon. So one of the other things you'll pay, for example, if you're doing FBA, is you need to get the product there. One of the misconceptions I hear a lot is that you need to send, I don't want to do FBA. I don't have a pallet to send in. I don't have 1,000 units, or you can send in one technically. And I wouldn't recommend that. That wouldn't be probably that smart because you'd have one get in there and then one sale and now you're out of inventory already. But you can send in just a small case of 20 or 30. In fact, that's what I often do at launch, just because I'm getting things set up for my clients, is do it that way. But to send in that box of, let's just say 30 units, you will pay, in that case, UPS rates. You want to use Amazon's preferred carrier, which is UPS, and you get really reasonable rates. I send a box of candles as something like 24 by 20 by 20 and 40 pounds, I think. It's usually like $8 to ship that into Chicago, UPS, because I'm getting Amazon's preferred rates. So that is a separate fee, Kurt, that would come out in your payments transaction detail, is where you can find those FBA shipping fee is, I think, what it's called in the report. But that's different than this FBA fee. This is a per unit fee that I'm talking about. So hopefully that answered that. Good question. All right. Success. I think one of the things to throw out there that I cover this a lot is, success to you, what does it mean? And always keeping that frame of reference in mind as you're launching on Amazon. I think most of us here on this call are going to be those last two bullets, creating a brand that changes the world, or a great brand doesn't need to change the world. But protect your brick and mortar channels by controlling Amazon. Those are kind of, or even a 7-figure seller. Those are some of the bigger ones. But it's perfectly cool to have a small product out there that, you make enough profit and it's a car payment and it's fun and you got a side hustle. So think of that as you go into this. Not everybody needs to be doing this level of defining success. Also, when we talk about success, talk a little bit about failure. Andy asked, yes, 15%. Andy, that's correct. The referral fee is 15%. Failure, right? One of the things I encourage everyone to, especially if their first product launch, and Kurt, I think you said this was your very first product, it may not be a grand slam financial success. But you don't want to look at that as a failure, in my opinion, or you want to change your perspective on failure. Failure, I think, is great as long as you're not repeating the same mistakes over. Because if you don't get out there, you don't get in the game, get in the ring, whatever you want to say, you're not going to learn. You're not going to learn what worked, what didn't work. And so if it's a air quotes failure, but you learn something, and then on the next product launch, you do it differently and you do it better, that really wasn't failure. That's moving forward and growing and succeeding. So definitely consider that aspect of it as well. All right, we have completed setting the stage. A little bit longer time frame than I wanted, but I'm going to pause here now for me to take a drink of water. And any questions on all of this kind of fundamental concepts, people can throw in the chat. Just checking how many people we got. Oh, wow, we have a great group. Fantastic. Okay. What percentage to assume defects due to Amazon warehouse? Ooh, that's a great question. I do not know of a benchmark or like a rule of thumb around that one. In my experience, it's extremely low, well below 1%, not even close to 1%. So yeah, it may depend on, if it's higher than that, or if it's higher than you think it should be, I guess, potentially there's some packaging or other oddities with your product that are causing them to maybe damage them in handling more. But for my time on Amazon since 2016, that's just not been a big deal as far as them wrecking a lot of product or driving a forklift over it and messing it up. Ben has a question, thoughts on Amazon affiliate marketing. I think it's good. It's not something that I've worked a lot with. I think having affiliates supporting your products is a great way to drive, again, that external traffic in. And then if you are doing it yourself and you have a site that you are generating affiliate revenue from, I think that's great as well. The seller doesn't pay for that. That's part of Amazon's fee and payouts and things like that. So I think it's great. It's actually an area I need to do more of. I'm so busy on the operations side of things. So cool. Andy asked for FBM is the only fee, the 15% referral. Correct. Well, and storage fees and some of the others, but you don't pay a FBA fee. You do need to collect shipping and build out your shipping table or price your products so that you're doing free shipping potentially. But no, there's not a FBM fee. So correct. Michael asked, what about the fee for a product that is monthly cost customer subscription or products paid with installments? I don't know, Michael, on that question specifically. To my knowledge, if a subscription product would be the same fees, it's like the sales automated and coming in at the same interval or some sort of an interval like monthly or whatever. So to my knowledge, it would be the same referral, FBA, etc. And I do not have knowledge with installment payment products on Amazon. So that one I don't know, but looks like that answered the question. Cool. All right, we'll get going on the next section. Keyword research. Super important topic that you want to be doing. If you have an existing Amazon account, you want to be doing this on a quarterly basis, probably at a minimum, depending on your competitiveness. But what is keyword research? What is a search term? Let's even start there. Search terms are what people are typing into the search bar on Amazon. So they type in, flavored pretzels. And then the results that come up, that's the search term that was typed in. And so keyword research is around the concept of, all right, what terms are people typing in that are bringing them to products like mine that I want to rank for? So that's what a search term is. I think most people know what that is. And we'll jump over to Amazon here in a second and Helium 10 as well. But short tail versus long tail is an important concept, especially at launch and as a launch strategy. Short tail just means short. So wagon, right? That's a very short tail keyword. It's one word. Red wagon for toddler boys, like that, however many words that was, 5 or 6. That's a long tail keyword. Those longer tail keywords are, on the one hand, going to typically have lower search volume, but higher buyer intent, right? Somebody who's typing that in, if they find a red wagon for toddler boys that they like, they're ready to hit the buy button, add that to cart. Versus wagon, that's somebody who's just kind of exploring, right? And now wagon probably has a lot of searches, but there's pink wagons for girls and wagons for red wagons and whatever, and garden carts. And who knows what else might come up in a search like that. So that's the concept of short tail versus long tail. As it relates to a launch, long tail keywords can be a great strategy to go after. What we do with product launches, typically we'll find 20 really good long tail keywords that are not super competitive, but have decent search volume, maybe around 500 searches, 1,000 searches a month, something like that. If you combine 20 of those and you're kind of aggressively going after that, that can be a good overall search volume that you're going after. And it can be a little more cost effective because your cost per click, and we'll talk about the advertising stuff, should be lower on those potentially versus the short tail. That's where a lot of people will be going after those search terms, and the cost per click will be a little bit higher. Ben asked, do I have any training videos on YouTube? Ben, you are the second person to ask me that in about as many days. I do not yet. So I'll get to where I do a couple other venues as far as a free meetup that we do a couple times a month. And there's replays and stuff like that on there. I do not have a YouTube channel yet. And it's something I would like to do because I really enjoy this teaching stuff, but thanks for asking that. Keyword research with Helium 10. Helium 10 is a set of tools we're going to look at here in 2 seconds that allow you to do a lot of different things with your Amazon account and the Amazon research and the data on the Amazon ecosystem. But Cerebro, super cool name, that's a reverse ASIN search tool. So what is an ASIN? I forgot this definition. This is probably the first definition I should have started with. So ASIN is Amazon's serial identification number, I believe is what it stands for. But it's the 10-digit alphanumeric number that you get assigned with your product. So my cemetery candle every product on Amazon has an ASIN. And what a reverse ASIN search is, you put the ASIN into Cerebro, the search tool, and then it tells you all the different search terms that are currently that it's currently ranking for and where it's ranked in the organic search results, as well as the sponsored search results for your PPC. Super cool. And then Magnet. These tools are so well named within Helium 10. Magnet is a tool that lets you put in a search term like wagon, and then it says, here are all the search terms that are related to wagon. And that's a great one to explore, like new search terms or maybe Spanish language search terms. That's a kind of an interesting approach too, that, there's Spanish speakers who are typing in Spanish into the search bar. You might not think that to doing that yourself, but Magnet will kind of call that stuff out. So let's jump in and start looking at a few of these different things right now. Okay, so here's Cerebro, and I use that Tarot ant bait product. So this is the ASIN I was talking about. So B00, blah, blah, blah. Again, every product on Amazon has an ASIN. Just a quick sidebar. I should probably stop some of these sidebars. We're already at 10, but a marketplace like eBay is very different than Amazon. So on eBay, 1,000 people could be selling the Tarot T300 ant bait product, and there would be 1,000 listings with their own photos and their own way to describe the Tarot ant bait product. Multiple listings for a single product. On Amazon, the terms of service or style terms of service are that there should only be one ASIN or one listing for the product. That there could be multiple sellers, and that's where we get into that situation. But yeah, that's the case there. So here we have the ASINs put in, and now down here are all the results. So I was talking about those phrases. Sometimes you'll get weird stuff like how to get rid of a cold. Hopefully nobody's taking ant poison to get rid of a cold, for God's sakes. But these are more appropriate ones. Ant killer. 57,119 searches per month. Now this is an estimate. Should mention that Helium 10 Amazon doesn't publish actual search volume data anymore. They used to. So these software tools like Helium 10, Jungle Scout, and others use their own internal algorithms to estimate what the volume is based on their historical data and all of their proprietary stuff as well. So these are estimates, but that's what the search volume is there. And then you can see organically, they're ranking number 1. If you type in ant killer, you're going to find that product. Not surprising, has amazing reviews, and it's a super popular brand name. Sponsored rank within the last 30, greater than the last 30 days. Interesting. Is 5th. So that tells us that they're running ads. They are running ads on ant killer, and we're getting like 5th position on the sponsored ads. And then Amazon recommended rank is the most to least recommended. So the lower the number, the better here. I actually don't use this too often for research. It's really more about the organic rank that we care about. Some other pieces of data in here really quick, just so you know what these are. Sponsored ASINs are how many people are running ads on Antkiller. Not very many, surprisingly, especially now. It's such a busy time of year. I pulled a fresh data just a few minutes ago. Competing products over 1,000. So that tells you there's a lot of competing products for Antkiller. So we won't drain this, but this is kind of one of the main areas that when you're doing keyword analysis, you're going to really want to spend a lot of time with tools like this, reverse ASIN search tools. There's filters up here that can help you reduce some of the clutter, because there's 14,903 searches there. So that's really a lot. And you may want to only look at, certain search volume levels. So you can sort and filter, and then up here, or sort, and then up here you can filter. But I'm just curious what the top ones. Fruit fly trap. Wow. Mosquito repellent, not surprising. Roach killer, hundreds of thousands a month. So that's Cerebro. And then Magnet, again, looks at this a different way. So here I typed in flavored pretzels. And what it's doing now is showing me all of the different search terms that Helium 10 has in its database that are connected to flavored pretzels, or relevant. And so then you can do that exploring kind of piece. Buffalo chicken dip, that's kind of a weird one. Dill pickle gifts. Yeah, if you have a dill pickle pretzel, maybe there's some people typing in dill pickle gifts. Not very many, 108 searches a month, but misspellings, that's another one. A lot of people misspell, cemetery as an example, with my cemetery candle gets misspelled a lot. Healthy snacks, I think they meant healthy, but apparently 196 people per month mistype the word healthy for snacks. So if that's something you're interested in, this is a low volume. It's not really long tail, but and it might be interesting to advertise on this at some point and just see if you could get some sales from it. But anyway, that's what Magnet is. Perfect. Let's go to back to the PowerPoint. I definitely recommend, even if you're going to go with an agency or you're not going to totally DIY it on Amazon, getting some knowledge with a tool like Helium 10 is good. So here we're talking affiliates. I don't really do this to generate money. I love Helium 10. My team uses it all day, every day. So here's the bit.ly link to save you 50% off the first month. Again, full disclosure, that's an affiliate. But it's really about getting access to the tool and just trying it out for a month, and then you can just dump it after that. They also, about a month ago, launched a new course. So if you are in the kind of DIY world and you're considering courses, I really recommend something like this. Freedom Ticket is Kevin King, very huge name in the Amazon seller world. It's a fantastic course. 2.0 was great. I haven't looked at 3.0 yet, but it's everything. How do you identify a niche and a product, all the way through to optimizing shipping from China and purchase agreements and launching your product and optimizing it and growing your business. All that is in there. So check that out. Also, Project X is some free YouTube content. Just search on that. There's over 20 videos of they're not dated yet. They were it's about a year and a half old now, I think, but it's similar. It's Tim Jordan and Bradley Sutton, which are pretty big names for sure in this Amazon world, going through a test case where they did research and purchased product and launched it, and they talk about how that whole journey. So it's pretty cool. All right. Now we're going to look at some optimization stuff. Is Cerebro part of the starter pack? Yes, Kurt, you won't get access to, I think there's limits on like how many searches you can do maybe per month, or with the lowest package. The approximately $90 one kind of gets you everything. I'd probably recommend that to try it out for a month, so you have the full access, run through the course, and then dump it if you don't want after that, or if you're using Jungle Scout. There are other good tools out there. I just pretty biased. I think Helium 10 has stepped well ahead of its competition and continues to roll out new tools like all the time as well. We won't be doing a full Helium 10 deep dive just yet. I think I did a webinar on this not too long ago, though. I'm going to share the meetup link, so I encourage everybody to join that if it's free. And then you can find the replays from all the videos, Zooms that we've been doing on Meetup as well. So here for optimization, we're going to take a look at a good listing. We're going to dive into a little bit more on Cemetery Candle and one of my other client products, Pop Daddy pretzels. And then a little bit of seller central listing changes, the importance of reviews. And we've talked a bit about trademarking and brand registry as well. But let's dive into looking at a listing right now and what makes a good listing. So here's the number. If we have to pick one thing, it's hard. It's going to be either the main image or the title that you want to be the best. You want all of it to be the best. But here's the Cemetery Candle listing. So we have our main image right here, and this is the one that shows up on all the search results pages, as well as the when you run ads and things like that. But it's a high quality image. Excuse me. This one's 2500 by 2500 pixels. You want to do at least 1500 by 1500 as a minimum, and square, and minimize the white background, right? So that the product takes up the maximum. You can see there's just barely a little smidge of white above the top of the red glass there. And so this is filling up the full frame. If you had a lot of zoomed way out, it would just look a lot smaller in the listing results and not as good. But you want to be able to zoom in like this and get the detail. So this is well worth the money. I paid a kind of a high-end photographer to do this shot and also hired a model to do a live shot. That's a little bit over the top for a lot of product like this for sure. But for most launches, you maybe don't quite need to go that far, but definitely your main image, you want that to be amazing. So that's that piece. And then the rest of the images, you want to have 7 for sure. And so that you fill up all these little thumbnails and take advantage of, I should take a step back. The main image has some rules around it. It needs to be just the product on just a white background. You can't have like text on this, or there's some other constraints, but basically that's that. Then you can get into other types of products showing the product in action. Like here it's lit with the dark background. Infographics are great for things like this, where you can say, you can see that's the competitor style product that I'm competing against. So here I say how awesome mine are with all the green checks and how horrible theirs is with the red X's. Super standard type of a product comparison chart, but they are helpful. Here's a lifestyle photo. Arguably, I should have more lifestyle photos on this listing. 2 to 3 is better. You want people, certainly this is a very emotional product. And so I think this shot, conveys some of that. It could probably be better. I've got another lifestyle photo here. I'll show you. It's a hand. That also counts in my, just some kind of a human connection. Here's my least favorite image on the product, but you do want to have a size image. That's one of the common problems that can lead to negative reviews is people not knowing how big something is or whatever. So here, again, I don't like this, but it's what I'm using for now. So, and then video is, if you have brand registry, you get to put video on. We're going to pause this. I don't need to hear it. But a short video on the product page that maybe around a minute would be ideal, that talks about the product and maybe even a little introduction of you, the brand owner. If you are connecting yourself to your brand, that's a great place to introduce some of that. But video is really important, but you only get video if you're brand registered. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But the title is the next really important area here. Let's see, Kurt's got an image question. Does the main image need to show packaging as well? That's debatable, right? I would run yes and no. So if you have amazing packaging, then you want to do that. Otherwise, it's better to show just the product itself. I know that's not maybe the best answer. One of the tools that's available, and you should do this either within Amazon through their A/B testing tool. So A/B testing is where you, in this case, let's say we wanted to A/B test a packaging image versus an image with no packaging. One is A and one is B. You can run those, and then after statistically significant amount of impressions, you can determine like, hey, the one with the packaging converted way better, so that's the one you're going to want to go with. Another way to do that is actually within Helium 10. got to be careful to not get too far off track here, but they just launched a new tool that is really amazing. It's in conjunction with pickfu.com, which is a way to get instant marketing feedback on things like that. Like you can submit those 2 images and they have all these people signed up, to do, and you can say, hey, which image do you like better? And then the Pickfu respondees will respond in like 2 hours and you'll get like 50 results saying, oh, we loved A much more and here's why. But Helium 10 has a market feedback tool called Audience. And I'm not going to go into this, but it allows you to blow that out even more. So not just main image, your videos, your all that. And it's in conjunction with Pickfu, but always do that testing. I highly recommend it. But getting back to the listing, title is really important. This needs to be readable for the human as well as the algorithm. Just a quick bit on this. The most important search term that you're trying to rank for, you want to put that up in the front of the title. That has a heavier weight on the algorithm than if this phrase was like down here. So this is what my title is trying to do. It's trying to say, all right, I want to rank for cemetery memorial candle, gravesite remembrance decor, and then getting into stuff that is important. I had a lot of issues initially that people think this is metal, and it's designed to look that way and look sort of high end. That's what I want. But there was some frustration. So I put this in to really hammer that home, that it's plastic top and base, that it's heat resistant, both indoor and outdoor. Those are important things for the human, more so than the algorithm. So that's what you want your title to do. Then down here, we have our bullet points. Lead with the benefit, follow up with a feature. I'll just leave it at that. So here we're easing pain. We're showing care and love, high quality, beautiful. And then we get into 12 by 14 inches, 54-hour burn time. Those are the features, right? But you want to lead with a more emotional component. So this is, fairly optimized listing. We've got the photos, we've got the bullet points, we've got an appropriate title length. Helium 10 thinks I'm getting a 10 out of 10. There's an evaluation tool you'll get with Helium 10 in the Chrome browser extension that kind of says, all right, are you doing things well with your listing? And then reviews and ratings, of course, which I can't control, but luckily I'm at 4.1 stars and got almost 90 reviews now over 2 years. So this is a slow mover, but it's nice to see. And I'll jump into that. Reviews are critically important, as everybody knows. There's some statistically important levels I want to talk about. You really want to get to those first 5 as quickly as you can. Below 5, it's kind of like you really don't have any. For the most part, there really isn't much social proof for that. It's harder to do that now because they took away the early reviewer program. But if you're brand registered, you can use the Vine program, which will help you get up to 30 reviews. So you want to get those early reviews as quickly as you can, and you want to follow terms of service, and you don't want to pay people to leave reviews or incentivize them to only leave positive reviews, but they're really important. 20 and 50 are other really important review levels or ratings. That's the other thing too that's slightly changed is these aren't all reviews, because now Amazon's made it very easy to just hit the number of stars in those emails that they send. So a lot of these are just a rating only, 5-star. But for the most part, shoppers, it's, again, you still want to get above 50 is when you're really in a good spot, and you'll see your conversion rate improve pretty dramatically in some cases, not always, I guess. But brand registry, let me talk about that because I've mentioned it several times and I want to go into a little more depth. Again, if you have a trademark, so I have trademarked Tultic Lights. And when you do that and you get it brand registered, you get access to create the video on the product detail page like there, and then access to create a storefront page. Well, now this is pretty simple for me. I only have 2 products really, the candle and then the inserts. So there's not a lot of pages, but you can build out multiple pages. You can have a larger format video here, maybe 2 to 3 minutes, that tells your brand story. That's a great way to use this storefront page. And then if you have lots of products, it's really awesome to do cross-selling on this page as well. So that's the storefront, but you only get this with brand registry. And that's free. I should mention that. What the cost is to get the trademark. Amazon doesn't charge you to do brand registry, and the setup is really fast. And Kurt, if you don't have that, just really quick, the IP Accelerator program, you can go through Amazon to do that, and one of their partnered lawyers will get that going for you. I did Tultic Lights for $950 in about under a week. I had it brand registered, I think, maybe 10 days total. So it's really quick. And now Tultic Lights is not a registered trademark yet. It's a pending application. So it'll still take me 12 months or whatever for the USPTO to get back to me. I think it'll be fine. But if it gets rejected, I don't know what Amazon does at that point. So USPTO only. Yep. Kurt was asking, sorry, Minnesota State or US. Yes, pending, absolutely. If you have it pending with USPTO, you can have brand registry probably by tomorrow if you filled out the form today. It's super easy. Just go to brandregistry.amazon.com, I think it is. Let's get going back to here. Okay, I think we talked good enough about that. I'm going to jump right into competitive analysis. Well, let me just pause. Any questions on the optimization? Let's give me a chance to drink water too. Awesome. Nothing coming through. Fantastic. All right. Competitive analysis. We'll go there. I just thought of some other things I could show, but we'll circle back to those. Competitive analysis. Really think about this when you're looking at your competitors and the situation on Amazon. You want to continually be typing in those main search terms, and you want to watch for new sellers and new products coming into your niche. Helium 10 has some tools for that, but I won't get into it. But for the most part, get out there. Make sure you know what competition you have. For example, on my cemetery candle, probably as a result of these webinars, which is okay. I'm not too worried about that, but some products popped in about 6 months ago and they copied my bullet points verbatim and my titles just only slightly different as well. That's just a sidebar on competitors. That is a little frustrating as a seller when you're like, hey, they stole my stuff. There's really, unless it's a copyrighted like image or something like that and your brand registered, you actually can take action at that point. But if they're just copying your verbiage, unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do about it. But imitation is the greatest form of flattery or whatever, but not really because it's annoying. So monitor competitors' reviews. That's a great place to learn information that can be very beneficial. For example, if your competitors' reviews, there's a lot of complaints about, oh, it's breaks when I do this. And you know that yours is designed specifically not to break when you do that. It's great to call that out maybe more specifically for a while or even long-term in the bullet points or somewhere else so that shoppers who are comparing, because that's absolutely what they're doing, they see that and they go, oh, this one doesn't have that issue. They're more likely to purchase yours. So you can get some good intel by looking at their reviews. Pricing, of course, you want to see what actions they're taking on pricing if you need to potentially adjust if you're in that game to compete with them on price or not, just good to know. For example, similar, those competitors who launched similar products to my cemetery candle launched at like $9.99 and you saw my price was $64.99 and now they've matched me a couple of weeks ago. They were at $59.99 and I adjusted up. So they're following me versus the other way around. But you do want to take, of course, good note of what your competitor's pricing is, as well as their advertising strategy and tactics. Are they doing sponsored ads, sponsored products, or brand headline ads or video? It's just so you know what's going on and what they're doing. Certainly you want to take action there if there's things you can do to make it harder for them, be more aggressive on what they're bidding on, things like that. And may make them be like, this isn't worth it to me. And they'll back off and you'll be able to, or you can pivot away from that to different search terms, which you need to know. So that's why you want to just make note of that. And then competitor search term rank versus yours. I didn't do this in the Cerebro tool allows you to do something really cool. So I just showed you with one ASIN, but I'm going to hop right back to that screen. You can actually put in multiple ASINs here as well, competitor ASINs. So I could put in my candle and then competitor candles, run this, and then it shows a few extra columns and it shows your relative rank to theirs, which is very informative to see how you're ranking relative to theirs. But also then just running Cerebro with the one competitor product to see where they're ranking the highest for, that tells you where they're getting most of their sales from. And then you can respond again with advertising heavier on those or doing other things to make their life more challenging. So that's competitive analysis. PPC, we've talked a lot about this. Again, pay-per-click advertising. I'm going to go through some key terms that are important for you to know. This is, again, the third pinnacle of success on Amazon. It's really important. But before I get into this, let me go through a search results page and talk about some of the different advertising pieces out here. So here we have, I typed in the word flavored pretzels. Another sidebar. This is good keyword research if you don't have a software tool like Helium 10. Just type in search terms and look at the auto-complete section. This is telling you what Amazon knows are related to flavored pretzels. So pieces, individual bags, bulk, etc. So those might give you some good, cheap, free keyword research right there. But what happens when this came up is whenever you see sponsored, that's an ad that's running. So this top section is where sponsored brands headline ads are located. And I'm not going to drain. There's a lot of different ad placements, but I'm mostly going to just talk about the search results section here. So sponsored brands headline ad. And this is Snyder's, or a seller of Snyder's is running ads. And they are highlighting these three different products here. The next section is more sponsored ads, right? These are sponsored product ads. And so you can see this awesome product. This is my client. These are fantastic. Absolutely to die for. They're sold in Kowalski's or on Amazon, obviously. I'm super happy to be working with them, but their stuff is so good. But so we're advertising pretty aggressively on that flavored pretzel search term. And so when PPC is running, we're competing against, Rolled Gold and these guys here, Pizza Nut. I can't read the brand. But these are the sponsored spots. Now, then we get into the organic search results. So here you don't see the word sponsored. Now so that tells you this is the first organic rank. So we're in third place here. We're happy about that. Competing kind of heavily against Snyder's here in these top spots. This next section is not organic, nor it's neither, organic nor sponsored ads, PPC. This is an editorial section. I imagine most of you have seen this before. This is algorithmic in this case. And the reason I'm saying that is some of these editorial sections, there's a little write-up where it'll say something like, if you want to experience the greatest flavors, these products Amazon has found to be really awesome. Then you can tell like it's curated by a human, has like picked some of the products. This version, it's saying based on star rating and number of customer ratings. So we've gotten a couple of spots, which is really great, our variety pack and then our single flavor 3-packs. So this is like, I don't want to say free advertising, but this is an editorial section that you can't directly control. And then we get in, here's another one for Amazon's Choice. Amazon's Choice badge is given to, in this case, unfortunately, we're not getting it right now, but what that means is for flavored pretzels, Amazon algorithm is giving this ASIN its Amazon's Choice badge. We don't get to directly control that, but the way you do that is having good reviews and a really high sales velocity and be ranking up in here. And Amazon the algorithm will kind of float this around. Typically, it doesn't like lock in and keep the badge forever unless the competitor products aren't very good. But that's what that is. So here's another editorial section again, just for Amazon's Choice for these different search terms. So now it's showing different ones. And then we get back to some organic results on down the page. Here's another organic placement by us. Well, farther down, there's going to be some more sponsored ad placements at some point. Here we are. Yep. So another round of these and on you go. So that's how sponsored ads are going to show up on the search results page. If we go to, let's go to this one here. And we look at the product detail page, there's other places on here that advertising can be taking place. This one is an Amazon thing. This is not a sponsored ad, but sometimes there'll be ads in here that are called sponsored display ads. It's another advertising type. Don't worry too much about that. But here is another sponsored products or products related to this item. And these are product targeted sponsored products. So what we're doing with Pop Daddy is, this is actually a little depth here maybe, but this is called a brand protection campaign that we're running. So we target our own products to advertise on, so that when a shopper is down here scrolling, they will see our stuff as well, instead of just our competitors advertising on us. So this is kind of protecting our brand. It's taking a spot from one of our competitors here. That's what that's called. Oh, in the optimization section, I think I missed A+ content, but here, A+ content is another thing you get with Brand Registry. And that allows you to change this product description from simple plain text to a blown out graphic with images and different widgets and all kinds of cool stuff. So that's another benefit of getting your trademark and having Brand Registry. This section, A+ content, definitely increases your conversion rate. I think by up to 5%, Amazon says. I'm not sure if that's 100% for most brands, but definitely it's an improvement. And then we get down here to more sponsored placement. And this would be a sponsored display ad like I was talking about. Sometimes they're up top. At least I think that's what this one is here. So let me get back to the presentation. So that's kind of how ads show up. But let's talk about some different definitions, because then we're going to get into, for the last half hour, we're going to definitely get over to Seller Central and start looking around in there. But pay-per-click advertising definitions. Impression just means that like your eyes were on the page. So all those sponsored ads that we just saw, the top one, the top of search ones, etc., generated an impression, because my eyes, all of our eyes, but just my browser. So one impression was generated for all of those ads. The cost per click is another metric definition, which just means how much is it currently costing you, the seller that's running an ad, if somebody clicks on the ad? Because that's what the whole pay-per-click concept is. None of those ads that we just saw, let me go back here. None of these are getting charged anything from my actions right now. Go back again. If I were to click on one of these sponsored spots, not mine, but this one, if I click on that, they're going to get charged whatever, 50 cents or 75 cents, however much it is, for my click. Now, if I buy, then that's great. But otherwise, that's what the cost per click is. And the cost per click is continually fluctuating based on seasonal trends, based on competition, based on aggressiveness of bidding, for things like Prime Day or in Q4, Cyber 5. Competitors are going to get much more aggressive to try and get more marketing visibility and share. And so that will raise the cost per click overall. And you just want to know what that metric is and track that for your different targeting. Click-through ratio is the ratio of impressions to clicks. So of all the so clicks divided by impressions, basically. You want that to be as high as you can. Because of the way there's so many thousands of impressions, a good click-through ratio is actually 0.5% or higher. If you're getting 1% or higher, that's really awesome. And you will see those on video ads. And I do want to jump back and show you a video ad here in a second. But click-through ratio is really important. The pendulum of ACost. I talked about this at the start, and I'm going to come back to it as well. ACost stands for advertising cost of sales, and that's your amount that you spent on your PPC advertising divided by the amount of revenue that was associated with that advertising. So not your total revenue, so not your organic sales, but just your PPC generated sales. You'll hear a lot if you're out in the forums and whatnot about what's a good ACost, right? It totally depends on your situation. Depends on your margin, your goals, your objectives, and also kind of the pendulum and the life cycle of the product. So Kurt, with your product out there right now, you're trying to build awareness. And so the pendulum is swung hard towards that side, meaning your ACost could be 100%. It could cost you $1 to generate $1 in sales. And of course, that's not profitable long-term. But what you need to do is get the algorithm warmed up and get people looking at your product. So that's could be even 200%. Take $2 to get $1. Depends. So that's that side of it. Eventually, over time, hopefully within maybe weeks or months, you'll be able to swing that back towards a more reasonable, profitable level. And that's where you get some ACOS benchmarks that are kind of thrown out a lot. If you're around 20, 25%, that's considered good for a lot of different categories. But again, it's very specific on your margins and what your objectives are and where you're at with the life cycle. Kurt asks, within Amazon, how do you or can you discern between organic versus PPC sales? Yeah. So you could, let's see. Yes, we'll show that in just a second. I'll show you how to get your total sales. What you do is you take your total sales from business reports minus your sales, which you can get from the Advertising Council, and the difference is your organic. So that's how you do that calculation. We'll show that in a second. As far as the types of ads, I've talked about this briefly, but sponsored products ads are one category where you can advertise on search terms and product targets and categories. Many of those placements I showed earlier are sponsored product ads. Those make up typically around 70% of your advertising efforts are going to come from that, somewhere around there. Sponsored brands are what they sound. They're ads that are kind of generating awareness of the brand and growing your brand on Amazon. So that's that headline placement and video, which I'm going to show in a second. Actually, I'll show that right now. So sponsored brands, they'll make up maybe 20% or so. Here is a sponsored brands video and search ad for another client here. This might answer that packaging question. This is really great packaging, and we didn't do an A and B test. Kurt, I think you asked that. So we could show just the bottle. The packaging is so strong with this product that we've launched, or we're moving forward with this with the packaging. But so here's what I typed in: ginger shots, and similar. We've got Core is running a sponsored brand headline ad. Then these are sponsored products placements, as we said. There's that row, and then we get into organic, and then video and search. This is one of the most recommended things for everybody to do selling on Amazon. This video can be very inexpensively produced with Fiverr resources. And I've found a really good one. And I think this video is amazing. But let me just actually take it off. So there's this little music background. We're calling out benefits, a little stock footage, that those runners and that family, that wasn't anything we paid for. But this can be very inexpensively produced. It defaults muted. So you want to have if you have a spoken audio track, you want to have the words being written as well. But about 20 to 30 second smooth looping video. These convert amazingly well. And look at all this placement we get, right? Takes up the whole section, and it's really awesome. So you only get that again with sponsored brands, and you need brand registry to get that. And then sponsored display is the last type, and that's probably the lowest percent. It will be definitely the lowest percentage of your total advertising allocation on Amazon. And that has a couple things. Certain product detail page placements. I mentioned one of them. We won't go into that too much, but for the most part, it's around remarketing off Amazon. So people that have visited your detail page or maybe your category, and Amazon has other advertising off Amazon, they'll get remarketed ads out there. So that's really top of funnel sort of type stuff versus like direct purchase, but it's great coming into Q4 with all the traffic that's going to be coming onto Amazon to be running some amount of sponsored display ads to really help grow your brand and get more people aware of you, for sure. Okay, competitive analysis and PPC. Let's do some quick questions there. We're actually kind of circled back to being almost on time. No, pretty quiet. All right. Good stuff. Well, let's dive into Managing your Amazon store. So we've talked only about tools like Helium 10 and the actual Amazon.com, which everybody's super familiar with. Unless you've been a seller like Kurt and others, that you probably haven't seen the back end. So that's what we're going to look at next. The Seller Central system for my cemetery candle. We're going to look at dashboards and some daily check-ins and things that you want to consider. We'll talk about sales reports. We'll answer Kurt's question on organic versus PPC, as well as the conversion rate, how you calculate that. Account health reports. And we'll be just looking again, at my live Amazon seller account. Hopefully I don't have any nasty health reports that I haven't addressed that show up here on this call. I don't think so. And then a little bit about responding, where you go to respond to customers, shipping, and payments reports. And then that will wrap things up for the presentation part. So let's jump over there now. Okay, so here is Seller Central. It's sellercentral.amazon.com. And one of the things I will say right off the bat, it's not super user-friendly. It takes a little bit of time to navigate the screens, but here they are. We've got some main menus across the top. In the inventory section, this is where we go in, and I'll just kind of go through here, manage our inventory. This is, for example, if we wanted to change the main image for the cemetery candle, I would go into inventory, manage inventory, and I would say edit. And then we get into all these different tabs that allow us to change different values. If I want to change my price, I could change it here. There's other places as well. Here's the images that I've uploaded. Maybe I want to move this image so it's at a different order or sequence. I could do that here as well. The descriptions and the bullet points. This is where you enter all of that information in here. So these are the contributions. If you remember earlier, we were talking about Vendor Central versus other sellers' contributions. If somebody jumped on and changed a description on their Seller Central and hit save and finish, what will pop up, it will say, thank you for suggesting changes to this ASIN. Amazon will consider your changes, and if accepted, will go live in approximately 15 minutes. In my case, they would probably be rejected because, again, I'm brand registered, so they wouldn't override my change with theirs, but that's kind of how that would play out. And then search terms, here's under keywords. This is an additional piece of optimization I didn't quite mention earlier, but if there were specific terms that I wanted to go after that weren't in my other copy, because the algorithm is going to be picking up all of these. And so I do have a little redundancy built into this, like the word grave is also in my title. Oh, no, it's not actually grave site. That must be why I put that there. But basically, these are additional terms. If I found a Spanish language term in that scenario I talked about earlier, I could add it in here. And there's a maximum of 200. In fact, I did right there. Yeah. But I don't think, oh yeah, there it's taken up top. There's 250 byte limit to this field. So if you go over that, you type in too many, it pops up an error message, or it's supposed to. But yeah, so that's one part of, again, the inventory management part of Seller Central. Lots of other things you can do here, which I won't get into. But like if you want to upload your videos, here's the section where you do the videos. There's a set of pricing menus to do more different pricing things. For example, I can offer a business price for a business shopper to come in here and maybe get a discount if they buy 2 candles. Well, let's look what I have. I think if you buy 2, you save 5%. Yeah, so buy 2 and get 5% off. But this is for a business seller. So if they don't have a business account, they won't see that special pricing there. But that's where you set that up. Going back to inventory, I do want to show things. It's kind of more around account health, but the inventory dashboard is somewhere you should go on a regular basis. Kurt, you should definitely be going here, probably daily for the most part. But you can see a lot of different inventory metrics on how you're doing. Inventory performance index, or your IPI score, is a very important one, especially if we get into Q4. This can impact how much inventory you're able to restock at Amazon and storage. And mine's okay. I'd love it to be up here. It's in the green, so I'm not in the red. 450 or higher keeps you in the green. But there's 4 factors. Do you have excess inventory that's just sitting there, not moving? You have stranded inventory if something's gone wrong with your product and it's not listed, but you have inventory at FBA. That's called stranded inventory. That negatively impacts you if it goes down. If you're not keeping your inventory in stock, that's a problem. And then sell-through is how fast you're selling through. This is almost always going to show that it wants you to make changes. And then the change it's going to recommend, you can click these buttons to get recommended changes. It's going to be to lower your price almost every time to increase your sell-through. And that's not what I'm interested in doing. So I just have to deal with, try to keep these three as high as I can and just deal with this one being a little bit lower. But that's fine because it keeps me in the green. We did talk about storage fees in the fee section. Just as an example, this is one place where you can get a summary. In August, I paid $8.88 for storage fees. And I sold, I think it was around $2,000 worth of product. So you can see that's a pretty small percent of total. And if you're managing your inventory well, again, that should be a pretty minimal expense. But going through some of the other sections of Seller Central, we'll go over to the orders area. That's an important part to, for a couple of reasons. If you're managing your own or doing fulfilled by merchant, you would click on view the seller fulfilled orders. I won't have any in the last 90 days here, but certainly not unshipped. Have I done any shipped? I don't think so. This is where you would open it up. You would print. You can buy your shipping through Amazon, not at those reduced rates, unfortunately. This is buying it at a regular UPS rate. But you can buy it through here, and then it automatically puts the tracking number on the order and that sort of thing. You can also integrate with shipping software out of the scope of this conversation, but it can help automate some of that stuff. But the other piece is if you switch it over to the FBA orders, we can see 2 days ago, here's her order number. Rosalie ordered one here. And as I mentioned earlier, we don't really get customer. All I get is a first name and then their city and zip code and state. But yeah, just shows their order. If you needed to do refunds or things like that, you would do it through this area here. Request a review. I forgot to mention this. This is a feature, and one of the best practices now is to use this. You can actually go in if the order is within 5 to 30 days old, meaning it's allowed them to have enough time to get the product and kind of experience it. This one's not eligible because it's too soon. You can hit the request a review button, which basically just sends that Amazon sends them an automated message to ask if they would leave a review. So that's definitely a best practice to do on all of your orders, especially in the early stage when you're really trying to get reviews aggressively. I have with Helium 10, you get a tool. Where's it at here? That can automate this a little bit. If I go orders, manage orders. And then this request reviews on this page is actually a Helium 10 widget. And if I do that, it'll just go through and it takes the place of me having to hit all those buttons. It's just a macro. It's really cool. Kurt asks, can you customize the auto message to customers for reviews? Not this method. And I'm a little bit behind the times on, there is a external tools. Helium 10 has one of them as well that allow you to hook up the API and send automated messages for review requests to the customers through Amazon's API. And you do get some customization of the message there. However, they have really restricted and tightened that what's allowed and what's not allowed to the point where the best practice is now to just do it this way and let the auto templated Amazon version go out. But you could look at that. Yeah, I'm not super up to speed on that, Kurt, because that's not really best practice. I know there's still definitely software providers out there that are doing templates and automated messaging and things like that. I hope that answered that question. All right, getting back to orders area, orders reports, manage returns. That'll be something you'll just want to keep track of. You always want to be very responsive to seller FBM based returns. Here's just my philosophy on returns in general. especially when you're new and you don't have any reviews. You don't want to get a 1-star boat anchor thrown on there in the first 5, especially. It's not the end of the world, but if you do, you really want to avoid it. So I take the bend over backwards approach. If anybody's unhappy, I'll do a full refund, really no questions asked, even on a $65 product, just because I'm hoping to turn around their bad experience. Because sometimes you'll get a 1-star and they'll be like, holy crap, what great customer service. Switching this to a 5-star, they bent over backwards. Or in fact, that's my long-term approach as well, but I recommend that. I'm going to jump over to messages too, because that's kind of what we're talking about right now. If you go over here to messages, you can see the area where we and I don't get a lot of messages on this hardly at all, but let's see if we can go back. Yeah, January was my last message. So somebody's asking me about bulk discount, and then you just want to reply to them really, as quickly as possible. Looks like I did good here within about an hour. She's asking for a discount, and I'm like, no, sorry, but say it in a nice way, of course. So this is where if they had questions about the product, this is where you can have direct interaction, but you're still not getting an email address from them. But you can respond to them and say, hey, I'd love to, do whatever we can, give you a refund, etc. All right, Stephen asks, what are your thoughts on products listed with free returns? As far as fulfilled by merchant, I think that's a great approach if you can, do that. I think that makes a lot of sense. As far as does it sell more product or increase conversion rate, it might. So yeah, I think that's a good approach. Amazon's really changed their reviews or returns rules and requirements as well, and made it much more customer friendly. They auto authorize returns. So even if it's an FBM order, and the old way used to be the customer would say, hey, can I return this? And you would say, yes, you can. And then you would wait for the product to get back before you would refund them. That's all been in flux, and I'm not 100% up to speed on the latest, other than the auto authorization step happens automatically now, Stephen. And I think they do an auto refund as well, unless you can get some exceptions. And then if you don't get the product back, you can make a claim to Amazon to say, hey, they never sent it back within 45 days to try to get reimbursed. But don't quote me on that part of it. I think it might be slightly different process. But Kurt asks, in FBA, doesn't the return happen quickly auto? Absolutely. Yep. You're not involved in that in an FBA situation. They request the return. Amazon will instantly approve it. They'll reimburse the shopper, and then they'll debit you back the sale. So you'll get a reimbursement on your account, a negative. So they'll take their money back. Then the 45-day clock starts. And if they never send the product back, and that was the reason for return, is something like it was damaged, or I didn't want it, or changed my mind, and they don't send it back, Amazon will credit you back as if the product was sold. And they've gotten a lot better. There's a whole cottage industry around that whole process I just described, where Amazon used to not be very good at actually giving you the money back. And so it'd be all this kind of hidden money laying out there. And these services would go dig back through all of your return reports and find these instances and make cases to Amazon to say, hey, you owe us money. And then Amazon would look at it and go, okay, yeah, fine, we'll pay you. And the service provider will get a cut of your free money that they found. But I'm seeing that Amazon's just gotten better at doing their part of it. And so they give you the money back. And so those services are a little less relevant. But yeah, so this is the messaging area. Let me get back to what else do I want to show? PPC for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to do final questions. So we're going to go crazy. Nalini has a great question. When you search our product on Amazon, it changes the search from Yoga Pops to Yoga Props. Interesting. Put in the chat if you're brave enough to have me do this live on camera, and I'll check that out. We'll do that as our wrap up, and I'll talk about why that's happening. Really quick though, PPC. Here I went to, if you saw, I went advertising campaign manager. Cool, I'll do that in a second. And we're looking at Toltec lights, my cemetery candle, advertising for the last 7 days. what we're looking at here are all the different campaigns that I have active and running over here. And a campaign is where you set up what product you're advertising against. So we'll go through one here. We'll go through I have a whole naming system. We're not going to talk about that. Here's a sponsored products exact match targeted campaign. I think it's just for the main red candle. So we go in, we see, all right, we click on our ad group, which is a further breakdown of the campaign. And we can see, what am I advertising? I'm doing both. So the candle insert replacement as well as the red glass candle. Here's some of those metrics we were talking about earlier. So this one, actually, before I go into that, let's go into the targeting. What are we going after for those? So those are the products we're advertising, but what search terms am I targeting here? So this is loading up. So tall glass candle holder, and it's exact match. So the shopper has to type that in exactly. And what we're seeing here is I'm bidding 95 cents per click right now. And I won't drain this, but I generated 409 sets of eyeballs, saw that in the last 7 days. 4 people clicked, super cool. That's a really high click-through rate. If you remember, I said anything above 0.5, pretty happy with. So some of these are kind of low, but there's only 3 clicks. So this is not a lot of data, not a lot of action you can take, but I spent $3.80 and sadly no sales. So that's too bad, but let's put our date range out and see if this campaign did a little bit better. Now, so this is opportunity for improvement, either dialing this down. I like the impressions, so I'm not super worried about blowing, if you will, $40 in the last month on these terms because I want to stay relevant for them. But so that's campaigns. Here's where you would set up all of that structure, right? All of the different things that you want to target and go after. We talked about ACoS as the metric. Let me get back to, here's the last 30 days. So mine's at 31%. It's a little bit higher than maybe I would like, but I spent $243, not bad for a month, and I generated $782 in sales. So I got to get to Kurt's question, and then I want to jump on the Yoga Pops search. So here, Kurt, is my 30-day PPC sales. If we go over to reports, performance business reports, excuse me, we'll see that, and I'll just do this. There's really run it this way, Kurt, detail page sales and traffic. Oh, I need to do it that way. I'll just get the quick number. So 2,000, I think is what I said for the last 30 days. And whatever that was, 800. So the difference, about 1,200 of my sales came from organic and 800 from PPC, but that's how you calculate that exactly. For you, it's going to be mostly PPC, very little organic, and that should swing. A healthy ratio is ideal state, getting it down to about 30% of your sales coming from PPC, 70% from organic, or maybe even better than that. But you don't want to leave money on the table and not have anything coming from PPC and only organic, because now you're missing out on other opportunities. So that's a good, healthy target to go after. Lots of other reports, but I do want to show you how to calculate your conversion rate. So this report, again, I went to reports, business reports, detail page sales and traffic. And my conversion rate generally is not very good, sadly. But let's do it for the cemetery candle, the red glass. So last 30 days, date range here, 506 sessions. So that's sessions. And how many, so what you'll see is unit session percentage. If you want a really quick gauge of your conversion rate, you can just use this. It's not a proper conversion rate though, because this is taking the number of units ordered divided by sessions. Whereas a true conversion is the number of orders, which is called total order items divided by sessions. So my actual conversion rate is 24 divided by 506, or 4.7%. You want to have a conversion rate between 10 to 15%. I think I mentioned that earlier in the optimization section. So I'm well below that. I have a higher priced item, and it's kind of quirky, niche sort of a product. And it's been that way for 2 years. So I've not been able to move that needle up a bit. I would love for my conversion rate to be above 15%. And that'd be fantastic, because what that would mean really quickly is I would triple my sales, right? So if the same number of sessions would generate a 15% conversion rate, that would be 75 orders. with doing nothing, right? Just having a better conversion rate. So that'd be awesome. All right, cool. We have 3 minutes left. Let's jump to an Amazon session, and we're going to type in, and by the way, I don't mean to be promoting all my clients' products, but these, if you like ginger, and these ginger shots are really good too. I don't think they're sold in the Twin Cities stores yet, though. All right, so yoga. So we want to do all categories. Sometimes you'll get weird results if you've accidentally picked a category selector. And we're doing Yoga Pops, which is your brand name. Okay, so it's not fine. It does not have that as a search term, and it's trying to auto complete this to Pops socket or snacks. But you're saying it's going to change it to props. That's interesting. And then, so yeah, it's showing results for Yoga Pops. You can do this search instead for Yoga Pops. And we'll see what comes up there. It's acting a little slow. Most likely what's happening, I'll just talk to it, is that you're not yet indexed for the different search terms that you need potentially. Nalini, sorry, couldn't see your name there. None of these are relevant, correct? Yeah. Yeah, let me get to my contact info for wrap up, Nalini. I think I might want to just jump on a quick call or have you email me and we could talk through maybe what's going on. But I'm thinking you're having an indexing challenge, or if you just launched, the algorithm really doesn't know what you are yet on where to put you. So cool. No, I assume was to none of these are your products. But snack. All right, cool. Sorry, Nalini, I'm not quite following. But let me get to just some wrap up stuff because I do want to call out a couple things. First of all, thank you all so much for attending, and we're coming right up on the 2-hour mark. I've talked super fast. I loved the interaction with the chat, and thank you all so much for your contributions there and fantastic questions. As I said earlier, great time to be in e-commerce. Never a better time to get started. So enjoy your e-commerce journey. And thank you for the opportunity today. There's my email, john@getproductlauncher.com. So my agency is called Product Launcher. Website is getproductlauncher.com. I did not able to get the domain, but there it is. If you have an Amazon ready product, or you're launched like Kurt and Nalini, and you want some help, we do free product analysis. So go to my website, sign up for that. I'll have the team look at your niche and then can give you some more constructive, like direct feedback on what we're seeing and maybe some tips and all that. That's free. So check that out if you're interested in. And then as far as the community in the Twin Cities, we do meetup.com. There's the link. You can also search up Amazon and e-commerce marketplace meetup for the Twin Cities. Please join that. It's a great group, I think. And it's actually quite broad now. There's over 8 cities involved, 10 different groups that were closing down as a result of like COVID. The organizers were kind of letting some groups drop. And so I've been picking those up. So we got Chicago and New York and a bunch of cities involved. So we do virtual, definitely getting to in-person once. Maybe I hope the December holiday one can be an in-person one, but we'll see, of course, based on COVID and all that's going on. Typically we meet in person down at Intelligent Office in Bloomington. They have a great space there for us, but please join that for continual free content. And next month, if you're interested in this topic, grab his book. We're doing the Exitpreneur. So I talked to this author yesterday, Joe Valley. So he's with Quiet Light, which is a brokerage for online businesses. He's talking about how to get your business ready to exit, and thinking about that early in the stages of the business, not waiting till a few months before you're ready to sell. But what pieces should you do and get in place now? So I'm really excited to have Joe talking in next month at the meetup. So please sign up for that. Any final questions? And yeah, Nalini, please reach out, shoot me an email so we can talk more about that. Yoga snacks. But that is all I have. Let me